Hey Marissa, how are you today?
I'm well, Mo. How are you?
Good. Everyone, I'm so excited to have one of my most spectacular clients with us. Again, this is America's kick-ass career coach, Coach Mo Faul, coming at you with my Bring Your Soul to Work series. Marissa is someone who really learned how to bring her soul to work. And today we're going to dive into a little bit about what she was feeling inside before we talked. She actually had her clarity call with one of my team members, and just kind of what was going on within her before she said, you know what, need to do something differently. And then we're going to talk with her a little bit about her process. Marissa hails from the lovely city of Chicago. Marissa, welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here today.
Yeah. So as you know, but maybe someone listening here might not exactly know, um, I offer career coaching. And I'm pretty specific about who is going to be successful in my work and how that goes. And as you know, I start off with a free clarity call. It could be with me or one of my career breakthrough strategists. You had one of those calls several months ago. Tell us a little bit about what prompted you to make the appointment, what you were kind of feeling and thinking inside. And just let's start from the beginning, and I'll just
Yeah.
kind of talk with you about that.
Okay, great. So, my life, I don't know, when was it? 3 months? Not 3 months. 4 months ago
Probably
or so.
four, yeah.
Was pretty, if I had to describe it in colors, it was dark gray, almost black, not really. I felt like I was losing at the game of life. I felt like everywhere I turned there was some sort of obstacle in front of me, and I thought that I had to face that obstacle, because that's what you do. If you're a brave, confident woman,
Right.
You conquer the mountain, you move the boulders, you do those things.
Yeah.
And I was finding that I was running out of steam for myself, like just running out of steam to even move a pebble, let alone a boulder.
Yeah.
So one day I was on Facebook, and this Facebook ad showed up in my Facebook feed, and it was real simple, real down to earth, and it was from Mo Faul. And I said, it was the strategies that I used to create my six-figure career.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's just see what this is about. And I clicked on it, signed up for a webinar. Signed up for a webinar at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Now, this is something I normally would not do. Saturday mornings are usually my rest and reflect time, also known as Netflix watching at that time, because I wasn't alive. I was just surviving life. But I signed up for the webinar. It was 8 a.m. in the morning. Saturday morning comes around. I woke up at 7:55, and I said, I'm up. I might as well turn it on.
Yeah.
So I turned it on, and the message that you gave, Mo, was just like, life doesn't have to be hard. And I was like, but I thought that it does. But if you're telling me it doesn't, I'm
listening. What?
Yeah, I got to keep going. And so it was that webinar that prompted me to sign up for the clarity call. And during that whole process, it was meant to be. Like, that's the only thing that I can describe it as, is that what I was hearing was matching up to where I was at that moment in my life. Life doesn't have to be hard. I do have the power to change my life. I don't have to keep reacting to things. Yeah. And I had gone through some things before finding you, Mo. Like, I had been in therapy for years. I'm like a personal development junkie. Like, I picked up
Right.
all of these things that I could, but for some reason your message was a lot different. And when I was talking on my clarity call, just to have someone not give up on me, like, I was giving up on myself millions of times during this conversation. I was like, but the money, but the time, but
Exactly.
and there was an answer for every single but. So I just trusted that moment and said, okay, it's now or never. You got to jump in and you got to do it. And so then I enrolled in the kick-ass course.
Yeah.
So that's how I got here.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that kind of facing reality or kind of seeing the mirror of your life may not be a pleasant experience, but I'm gratified that my team and the work that we do was comfortable enough to bring you through the dark gray, black, almost black days that you had. You get into the workshop with me, and we do some coaching. And I do have another coach who works with me, Jean, and we're going to talk a little bit about her because she fares into this story pretty significantly in one of your breakthroughs. So, as you know, we have a process, and we start with the personal mission statement and your core values. Talk a little bit about what you found out, who you found in this journey back to yourself. Tell us a little bit about that.
So in modules 1 and 2, yes, you're finding your life's purpose, you're finding your core values, and it felt like I was being like it's like an archaeological dig, and I was finding who I was at the bottom of it, right?
Yeah.
So it was just like pushing all of this stuff aside, like who my parents thought I should be, who my employer thought I should be, who my sister thought I should be. And my sister, is one of the most important people in my life, but I need to be me for me.
Yeah.
So I felt coming alive. I remember being on coaching calls with you, Mo, and I remember like I couldn't contain my excitement because I was like, oh, I feel this. This is something that I know who I am. Yeah. And I found that I am a person that likes to connect people to what they need. Yeah. And I am a person that needs to do that in her everyday life, which is one of the reasons why I'm so great to be being interviewed by you, Mo. If I can help other people get to this point where I am now, it's just great. Right. But it felt like it kind of, or like Sleeping Beauty would feel if she was real. Like it just felt like I was waking up again. And
the wake up.
Yeah, being able to, it helped with my body image too, not strangely, I know it's connected. Yeah. I would look in the mirror and be able to recognize the person in the reflection, which is something that I had struggled with because I've gone through some big body image, like I've lost a lot of weight, started gaining some of it back. So within the last 3 years, I've seen a different reflection every single time I've looked in the mirror. And so being able to, I have my core values identified, my life purpose identified, and be able to look in the mirror. I know who I'm looking at when I look in the mirror now. And that all started in modules 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and as you know, after we get that groundwork, the next module is to ask you to step up in front of your smartphone and do a video elevator pitch. And that's usually kind of like the big coming out day for all the women in the workshop that I have. And you saw many women do that same thing. It's pretty inspiring to watch that. Talk a little bit about your experience kind of having your coming out party.
So the elevator pitch is something I knew like day one that I was going to need to do because there were, as you know, other women doing it along the way. And I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a thing that I need to do. So I was pretty pumped up for it. And every single time a new elevator pitch would show up in the Facebook group, I'd just like watch it, learn from it, cheer on the woman who is like being very vulnerable and sharing her story and what she found her life's purpose was to do. So I set aside a whole day for this. I knew that it was something that I was going to have fun doing, and I didn't really know what I was going to say. Like I didn't have that all planned out until I really sat down and did it. But I really wrapped myself in the experience. I went and got a haircut. I made sure that I was wearing something that I felt confident in. And I really took time again to revisit modules 1 and 2, where we talk about our life's purpose, core values, and our story. Yeah. And I ended up changing it a little bit because I had changed so much since and this was just a few, like at that time, it was just a few weeks right? Prior. Yeah. But it reinvigorated that discovery for me. And then I couldn't wait to turn on my smartphone and do my elevator pitch. And when I did, I just felt I will remember this for my entire life, Mo. I gave my elevator pitch, and I've given presentations before. I'm pretty comfortable in that world. Yeah. But I've never felt the way I felt when I did my elevator pitch. I felt light. I felt like I couldn't stop shining. I mean, it's only supposed to be 3 minutes. I could have kept going forever, but the effectiveness would have been lost. But I remember on the coaching call after that, you had asked me, how did I feel? And I said, I just felt light and alive.
Yes.
And you told me that was alignment. And I could not, I started crying because I had never put the two and two together.
Yeah.
That feeling is a signal that I am lined up with what I'm supposed to be doing in this world.
Yes.
And so it allowed me to go back and see it. Where else in my life have I felt that? And try to pull those things together, because we can't stop that feeling. That's a feeling that I have no control over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really helped me solidify even more who I am today.
I remember that moment as well. And you've seen other women in the workshop going through their own personal transformation. Kind of right before our eyes, women are blossoming and finding themselves again. And the interesting thing is, once you feel that feeling, not in an addictive way, but in a desirous, aspirational way, it's like I want to live that way. I want to get that back. As you know, I have some tools that I teach and coach everyone in the group on, and I know you had some really interesting success with staying aligned, feeling aligned. You made some changes at work a little bit, and not to totally get into too much that you wouldn't want to share, but talk a little bit about some shifts that you found once you got aligned and you started to feel that power coming from within, rather than kind of like being all, what do other people want of me?
Yeah. So before this course, I lived my life in reaction mode. I was reacting to everything, and I didn't know why. I had no idea why this was a thing that I was doing, and I found it quite annoying, but I really didn't know any other way to do it.
You thought this is how life goes, right? Like, this is what it is.
I mean, I guess so I just was doing the best I could with what I had. And then, Mo, you introduced, so seeing the stories of the other women in the course is one of the most valuable experiences I have ever had. Listening to their stories and how they were able to change their everyday life, just on a weekly basis, let alone 3 times a week, let alone on a daily basis through a Facebook group. Like it's just, it's one of the most inspiring things. And having that going while I'm doing all of this work helped me realize, and I think it helped a lot of other people on the call one night as well, is because you laid out that I was addicted to attention. Yeah. And I was like, wait, what? wait, what? Okay. All right, Marissa, just like take it in. And I was completely addicted to attention. So this meant in meetings that I was talking for the sake of talking. I was talking because I thought that if I was heard, or if I was talking enough, that I was important. Mm-hmm. That's what that meant, to be an important, impactful woman in a meeting. Yeah. Not true. That's not how I am today in a meeting. I'm much more in a listening mode. I know my worth comes from inside. It does not come from the words that I'm saying, but I was able to look back in my life and see why I was addicted to attention. Mm-hmm. My childhood set me up that way. Yep. It's just how it panned out. That's right. But to be able to turn that story around for myself, not only helped me in meetings, but has helped me in everything. Yes. From this day forward. But I have been able to be more impactful in a professional setting. I've been able to speak about myself in a much more confident way that's not necessarily a victim role. I used to do a lot of, but why don't you like my idea? My idea is right. Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 Well, right. Yeah. It's interesting. I had a period in my career that was my frustration, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't being paid attention to in the way that I felt it was warranted. And as you know, as you go through the course, one of the reasons why I have module 5, which is Own the Room, is I learned
early in my career, although not early enough to avoid some of this pain, that content and just speaking just don't cut it. And I was watching people less smart than me, less good at what they did than I was, totally like having people buy into their ideas and what they were doing. And I said, they're onto something. So I began studying influence, public speaking, communication, verbal and nonverbal. And as you know, a lot of that stuff goes through the Kick-Ass course. And truly owning the room, you can't do it unless you first have alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now you've had the feeling over and over again of advancing your ideas and your smartness in a way that's effective and connecting with others, rather than this habit you had. Can we just leave it at that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that showed up in more effective meetings for you. I know that it also showed up in you just kind of taking power with a friend who you had a little incident with a couch. And I don't know whether you want to talk about that, but truly you owned the room in that incident as well. And to me, I'm a career coach. I want women to be more successful in their jobs and feel great every day when they go to work. But as you know, it travels with you.
Yeah.
So if you're aligned, you find yourself, you start uncovering all of this, you become more shiny and more bright and more truly you. It shows up with your friends also. You want to tell the story? Because I think it's a classic. I'm aligned, and in the past I would have done this, but actually in this case, this is what I did. Like, you want to have a go at it?
So I live in a studio apartment, and my friend Becky lives out about 45 minutes away from me, and she wanted to help me out by giving me a couch, a two cushion couch. I was like, oh, this is great. That would be great because I have a bed and a couple of chairs that I can sit in. It would just be nice to separate my life from being in bed all the time. Mm-hmm. She said, okay, great. So we're out in Elgin. Oh, sorry. We're out there. And we loaded the couch into her SUV, and we're just the two of us doing our thing. We put the seats down. I noticed I noticed the seats didn't go all the way down. I thought that was weird, but we persevered. We put the couch in there, and we close the door, and she's got one of those newfangled SUVs where the door just like latches all the way, which is handy if you're got a lot of groceries and you need to close the door. Not so handy if you have the couch in, and then when the door closes, the couch is a little bit bigger than the car, and so then the entire back window shatters. And that's exactly what happened to us. The entire back window shattered, and it was like a movie. I had never seen that happen. There was black glass everywhere. I was so grateful that my friend Becky was not injured because she was standing right in front of it. And we just stood there and we were like, okay, what can we do? We cleaned up, we called the insurance, and then my friend's like, we got to get this couch. We got it in the car. We're getting it to your apartment.
We're going.
So we got it. We got it in the car. We got it out on the expressway. We drove like 45 minutes, about 36 miles without a back window. And I made sure I drove with her, so in case anything happened, she wasn't alone. We got her up the stairs by ourselves. It's a happy little couch. It brings me a lot of joy. And I think what would have happened in the past is I would have just said, let's forget it. We don't have to do this anymore. I broke your window, even though she was giving me I was receiving the gift of a couch, and I didn't blame myself for anything. Mm-hmm. I didn't, I said I'm sorry because what else are you going to say at that time?
Right.
And I was truly sorry that her window had cracked and completely shattered and obliterated, but it wasn't my responsibility anymore.
Yeah. So felt amazing. So cool to take your alignment in a situation where in the past, perhaps you would have beat yourself up, blamed yourself, perhaps even caused a further schism that wasn't even necessary with your friend. we get into our own feelings of self-loathing, and we just naturally want to like project them onto other people. I know she must hate me. She's just not telling me that. And like all sorts of emotional dynamics that are totally not in alignment could have come your way, and you chose to stay in alignment. And the beautiful thing is you told the story on video in the private Facebook group we have, and it was so empowering and inspiring to see you tell that story, first of all, in such perfect proper technique of effective words and all of that. It was super super effective, and you told the story, and you owned your boundaries. You owned where you were with it, and you didn't take on things that were unnecessary. To me, that was huge. That was really really huge.
Thank you. And I've seen it, just to expand upon how I've seen my change impact those around me. My mom I'd hardly ever, not hardly ever, but she would always stay late at work. She'd always eat by herself because we had eaten like as a family before, because she was always working. And the past 2 weeks, she's been home. She left at 5 every day.
Whoa.
Come home, take a time. She's talked to her boss. She now works 1 day a week from home. And like, this is something that, I never thought I'd see her do.
Wow.
And I know, and she has even said to me that since working with you, Mo, that there's been a dark cloud has been lifted from me. She's seen it in me. And so I think she has seen that, and it is affecting the decisions that she makes. But what's great is that she's making these decisions, and I'm not taking responsibility for those either.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I'm truly happy for her to find her own way and her own path.
Yeah.
Where in the past, in the reverse, where I might have blamed myself for something bad, I might have said that I did that for something good. And just to not be attached to it either way is very freeing.
Yes.
And it just the celebration even better.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so great. As you see in the workshop, the work that each individual woman does for her own alignment and her own power always affects others around them. Sometimes indirectly. So I think what you're telling me, there was an indirect effect. Probably your mom saw you coming into your power, feeling secure and happy, and making some decisions, or just basically, like you said, like the cloud being lifted. Yeah. Maybe I could draw some boundaries. Maybe I could take care of myself at work. I've seen it with spouses, kids. I don't know if you were in the workshop when one of the women who was just about to graduate was on her last call, and she said the biggest advantage, not only of being happy in her job, she thought she was going to look for a new job, but she ended up not doing that because she was getting advancements in her job. But she said the biggest thing was her 21-year-old daughter saying that she's never seen her mom be happier. And that just totally melts my heart, because all day long we could be successful, making more money, feeling like we're making a greater contribution at work, but it's really how that affects us, bringing that back to our families.
Yeah,
and that's a significant thing to affect your mom that way. What a gift as a daughter to bring that level of empowerment to your mom. That's really awesome. Now, you had another breakthrough. We're going to play around with this after you tell the story. But this one also kind of just tickled me, and we'll talk about it a little bit after. But why don't you go ahead and tell the story, and then we'll talk about it after you tell the story.
Okay. So as I mentioned, I was in therapy before I started working with you, Mo. I'd been through some pretty big traumatic events. I had a relationship fall apart, a relationship that I thought was going to be the relationship for me. I thought that I was going to get married. We were going to have kids. We had like all of this stuff. Our families were getting along. It was great.
Yeah.
I was living with him also. So I had a house of my own ish. And it all came crumbling down for many reasons now that I look back on it. But I was left having to move back in with my parents at the age of 32. And I felt a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so I was in therapy to figure out what those feelings were.
Yeah.
And my whole life, emotions have been a big part of who I am. I have loud emotions. I have big emotions. I thought that they were defining emotions for me. So I needed to go to a place to figure out what that meant for me.
Yeah.
So I started therapy. We worked out like why I was reacting to things in a certain way, what in my past had influenced my decisions at a certain time, why I had stayed in a relationship for as long as I did. That I may have thought at the time that was like, the biggest, best thing, but I was staying in a relationship for a reason that I didn't need to be in a relationship for. It was just that I felt like I would never find another one because that's what I had told myself.
Yeah.
So I was in therapy. I was in therapy for that. I was in therapy because of work situation. I was not feeling very fulfilled at work. As we had talked about, I had culture issues in a way because of how I would talk in meetings all the time. I was not perceived as someone who was helpful or someone who was dedicated to the mission. So I had to deal with that a lot. How can I talk differently? How can I do these things? But it was all good. It helped me figure out the why of a lot of things.
Yeah. And
then it just got to the point where I was going once a week or once every other week to vent and complain. And one of the biggest takeaways I took from your course is what I focus on expands.
Right.
So I knew I was dedicating at least 2 hours a month, at least, to just reviewing what's not working in my life and dedicate pretty solid energy towards that because I was invested in it because I was telling a therapist to try and get some information back.
Yeah.
And one day I just woke up and I said, I don't want to focus on this anymore. Like it's not that it wasn't valuable. It's not that it didn't help me. It did help me out of some pretty dark moments in my life.
Yeah.
But I just gotten to another level where I just didn't want to focus on it anymore. So one of the great things about your course is the availability of both you and Jean you can just pop in the Facebook group. Hey, I got this going on today. I need some support. What can you, and all of the other women as well will give you that support that you need.
Right.
Well, I texted Jean and I said, hey, I got this thing. I got to talk through this with somebody. I need to figure out what's going on. I need to find a way to say what I need to say. And she's like, yeah, no problem. I'll call you at this time. I said, great, I'll be there. This was during work. Like this is another thing I would have never done is like have a personal call during work. I found an office. I was at a different office. I found an office I could be in, shut the door, talk to Jean. And we figured out that therapy was no longer serving me. And Jean was really helpful in giving me phrases and ways to have that conversation and come from a place of compassion and not fear of running away from something that had helped me in the past, but realizing that this is not where I am now and this is not what I need, and that's okay. So I said, all right, I replayed everything, that conversation pretty much from the moment we hung up the phone until I had my therapy appointment that night. I texted her, said, okay, I'm going in. She was right there for me. I'm here for you. There was a call that night. So I said, I'll hop on the call if I can. I went in and I had this conversation with my therapist, which was one of the most compassionate conversations I think I've ever had in my life. I just said, I've come to a decision. I no longer need therapy to fulfill me. It's no longer serving me. And I'm going to stop seeing you in therapy. And then we talked for like 30 minutes, not about therapy, but just about how I came to this decision and how my plans for the future and where I'm going to go as opposed to where I've been. And it just kind of allowed me to put a nice bookend, a good chapter end to that part of my story. And it was part of my story that I needed.
Right.
But I needed in the past tense. I don't need now. And I don't know, it could happen in the future that I need it again. Sure. Yep. But it taught me that it's okay to step away from things that don't serve me anymore. And since then, I've seen friendships no longer be part of my life and be okay with it.
Yeah.
But and that has allowed space to let new friendships come in and new things. And that was this. I couldn't have. I mean, I probably could have done it, but not as well if I didn't have the support of Jean and of you and of the whole community to be able to just say, all right, you can do this.
Yep.
Not just you can do it, but you kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
If you want to, Marissa, if you want to do these 3 things that you can't stop talking about, you're going to need to get rid of the things that no longer serve you. And if that's one of those things,
right,
we're here for you.
Yeah. So
it opened up so many doors.
You learned how to make decisions from alignment, from listening to your highest self, which is that inner being that usually for women starting the work with me, it's a tiny little faint whisper, and there's enough that gets you the webinar, there's enough that gets you on the clarity call, but then as you dig into who you are, that inner voice and that inner alignment gets matched up with how big you are, right?
Yeah.
So the alignment becomes your own personal identity going forward, and then making decisions from that point of view is kind of easy.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to doubt yourself and create all these stories. Well, what would my mom want me to do with my sister? Let me check in all over the place to make sure that I'm validated before I move forward. Like you lose all of that baggage. And I know that from in talking with you and doing some coaching around that, you were purely in alignment about what was going to serve you, what was going to feel matched up with your highest self and your inner being. And that's the beauty of having an additional coach working with me is the availability, like you said, Marissa. And certainly we're not saying that therapy is bad, but there is a time and a place for it, just like there is a time and a place for surgery and medicines and whatever else kind of comes along the pike. I know now that you have tools and knowledge of yourself to last you a lifetime.
Absolutely. Every day I am reminded by myself of things that I can do to make my life what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Even when I don't think that. So there are times like habits. I've been programmed for a very long time.
Yeah.
There are some habits that are still there, but I know that they're habits. I know they're not reality. I know that I can change them, and I am changing them.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, it goes beyond a career.
Yes.
It's truly going to change my life.
Yes.
Like it's yeah. And then this is when I get like super excited and I can't wait and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I know also that wrapping up the course, one of the things I love seeing folks do is create goals for their future and really envision a much more full life. Not that I want you to divulge any of that, but just talk about maybe the feeling of hopefulness about your life now that you have.
Yeah. So in the end of the course, the 8x8 life plan, I could not get enough of this thing. I was just like, okay, all right. Now that I've cleared out all of this sludge, all of this weird stuff I've been carrying around, I'm going to sit down and plan my life.
Yeah.
And you don't have to come up with it. You tell me all that, like, you don't have to come up with it. I couldn't stop. Like, I could have gone on and had like 12 things to do, but to be realistic, I did keep it to 8. And it allowed me to be confident in whatever happened. I wasn't attached to the outcome. Mm-hmm. So I put down, like, one of the things I put down is that I want to run a 5K, like run it from start to finish.
Yeah.
And if I do it, that's great. but if I don't do that, that's also great. Like, I will have done something I hadn't
Yes.
done before, whether that's, I would have run further, I would have stopped running and picked up weightlifting, it would have directed me in a different way.
That's
But
it.
just the reason, just being able to sit down,
Yep.
and at that moment, those were the 8 things that I wanted to do, and come out with like little milestones of things that I can do. It's just, it's so much fun.
Yes,
It's fun
it
to sit
is.
down when I am myself and I know who I really am, to create a future for myself, not for anyone else,
Yeah.
not for my future husband, not for my, but not for my parents, not for my family, not for my friends, but for me. And like, another thing I want to do is just go on a trip by myself. I don't want to see anyone. I just want to go get on a plane, explore somewhere new. And that'll be great. Yeah. That'll be fun. And just thinking about it. Like, I don't even have to go on the trip.
Well, you've uncovered the secret, and you know this by working with me. But the secret of a fulfilled life is actually having the feeling state, regardless of what the external world is. Having the feeling state. When you get fun and enthusiastic by planning it, the feelings themselves that you went through just to plan it, plant those seeds in such level of knowingness and certainty that you're right. Like, something wonderful is going to happen along the way as you keep aligning yourself and living your life, and you know what that feeling is.
Yep.
So no matter what we want to do in life, it's really all about the feeling we want to have.
It's all about the feeling. Everything is about, and I think what I learned most of all is that it's okay to be one with my feelings.
Yes.
It is okay. I don't need to push them on a shelf. I don't need to hide who they are or what they are. One of the reasons I loved the movie Inside Out is because there were emotions on the big screen. And I was like, look, everyone else in the world, this is what my life is like.
Yes.
But it's not just my life. It's all of our lives.
Yes.
And I think I spent a lot of my time using my brain to rationalize, to justify, to investigate what those feelings meant, as opposed to just feeling it.
Yes.
And saying, okay, I feel great. I'm going to keep doing that.
Right.
Exactly. I'm not going to do that anymore. It's like one of the first things in first aid they teach you, right, is you ask someone, does it hurt? Stop doing it. Like, if it hurts, stop doing it. And I really think that, that's something that I know how to apply now, because I'm not afraid to stick with the feeling of feeling good.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is, we can throw cliches all around, but this one is so true. It's simple to live in alignment. It's just not always easy.
Yeah.
Because we do have a world out there. We have relationships. We have attachments. We have, whatever. All of these things complicate things. If you were giving advice, Marissa, to someone who was feeling like you felt 4 months ago, and, something I always say, well, it helped Marissa, but I don't know about me. I think the rational brain tends to think, well, it's just not going to apply to my life. She has no idea how bad my life is. What would be some of the things that your past self would whisper to your future self, or to a woman who was feeling similarly? What would you whisper to her?
Your life depends on it. Your life depends on figuring something out. Like, your life depends on taking this chance and investing in you. No one else is going to do it. No one else is going to take the time need. And if someone else does it, it's not what you need anyway. It's what they need. It's going to be scary, but that's okay. Yeah. It's going to, it might be sad, but that's okay.
Yep.
You're going to have, to dedicate some time to this, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Everything, it's okay, but your life is different after day one, and that is enough to keep going. And this is a way of life now. Like, this is not
right.
It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle.
That's it. That's it. And and that makes dieting and exercise easier too, doesn't it? You're like,
absolutely.
this is alignment. This is going to make me feel good. This does feel good. You know what? It doesn't always feel great to get out of bed or to lace up the shoes or get out in the cold or whatever it is. But ultimately that your motivation is how it makes you feel afterwards, or how it makes you feel 2 weeks later when you can, jog for 5 minutes without stopping, or whatever the case may be. I've been motivating myself since I was in high school around exercise and just pushing myself in a variety of different ways. And some of the things that I've learned that I know you picked up in the course, neurolinguistic programming and mental mastery and basically daily alignment. Like when we practice being in touch with ourselves every single day, we can live more purposefully and more mindfully. And I personally am delighted to see you smiling and happy and living a full life and having gotten enthusiastic about thinking about your future and planning that. And I know that you've got some really good plans and ideas about where you want your future to be. And as you know, you're now in the grad group, so I get to keep track of everyone. And life does continue on. So that ongoing tribe of women who have all been through the journey of the 12 weeks, and then they get to kind of hang out with each other and share life and additional triumphs and celebrations, and sometimes some additional difficulties. So I'm looking forward to watching your ongoing success, Marissa. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with me, with us. I know that there's women out there who whose lives will be changed because you shared your own personal story. So thank you very much for spending this time with me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Talk to you later, Marissa.
Bye.